Almost had him, Sacko had him, ba-da-da-da-da-da. Who's it gonna be? Bow, no, no. Man, Kurt, every week doing something great for us. Well, it's week 16, Buckaroos. We've made it. Full season championship weekend is here. A lot of action happened last weekend. I guess I should back up. It's just me and a few chilled Pacificos here. I'm actually recording in Chelsea's workstation in her room. All by my lonesome. Weaver has gone south and we couldn't coordinate the Zoom call. We're thinking about having a special guest on, but ended up not being able to happen. So for this week 16 preview, just be your boy Golf. So I'm taking a sip of beer here. Oh yeah, that tastes exactly like Pacifico out of a can. Anyway, so this weekend, holy shit, so much happened. Going to Sunday, nice early morning at the U. We woke up, before 8, got some breakfast materials, bacon, eggs, other shit, and actually had some time for a little pre-football beer diet. It was Chelsea and myself versus Weave and Ashley. Of course, Chelsea and Colin won. Got it right under the wire so we can go in and watch some football. Actually had a little bit of afternoon beer diet later on as well. But throughout the day, we were drinking a lot of various things. We had Claws, which is on the Snapchat. We actually made some hot cider. I say Chelsea made some hot cider. So basically got like a giant jug of cider, put it over on the stove, mixed in a bunch of rum, Sailor Jerry's, and then threw in some cinnamon sticks. And when you have it, when it's piping hot, you can't taste the alcohol at all. So we made many, many batches of that. Later on in the day, had a little bit of villainous going on. We played 2 games. I did not win either one. And then we had our basketball draft. So as you know, that was happening. Weaver was doing his rating. Everyone loved that. But anyway, the true action came on Monday night, right? We had a semifinal game. Everyone's enjoying Stu tinkering in the right or wrong wide receiver before the game. Claypool versus Higgins. And in the Sacko ship, Adam had Ebron and only needed a few catches and a handful of points. Max had no one going. Ebron gets pancaked on his first target, and he's out for the game, cementing Adam's first ever Sacko. While Stu had to sweat it out the entire game against Stu and Bacon, Claypool was doing really nothing until later on when the Steelers, the Pittsburgh Paper Tigers, I guess I should say, were in comeback mode on the Bengals, and so eventually Claypool got Stu over the hump and into the championship game. So congrats to Stu, and congrats to O'Malley. Quite the showing in the other semifinal game, even though Brad had a pretty good week. I mean, I think O'Malley might have scored the most points in one week, at least definitely this year, and perhaps all time. I don't remember if we talked about it or not, but wow, just wow. So that was the Monday Night Nail Biters. We've been talking about average finish a lot on these podcasts. Maybe I've been talking a lot about it because, when you're not in the playoffs, you got to find something to hang your hat on. And so I went back and found an old spreadsheet of mine that I kept a bunch of various stats, right? So mock drafts, podcast things, all-time points for, of course, the zombie coronavirus survival, aka Walking Dead power rankings. Maybe we should revisit that, actually. Yeah, let's go back down memory lane. Okay, so if you'll indulge me for a second, we're going to look at the coronavirus survival, aka Walking Dead power rankings. This was made in January. There were a number of categories that I judged everyone on. Let's see. Those categories consisted of: can you survive in the wild? What's your injury history? How cunning are you? How good are your social alliance skills? Your endurance overall. How much can you take seeing gore? Your proximity to dense population, therefore more zombies. Your anchor factor. So if you have people that depend on you, which might bring you down. how's your self-defense? And finally, what's your MacGyver factor? So, can you construct things in a pinch? Bacon was first overall, actually tied with Bill in the zombie survival rankings. After that, we had Evan and Weave coming in tied for third place. Then tied for fifth place, we had Scott, Pebs, and Max. So how many people is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I was 8th, O'Malley is 9th, and then Adam, Brad, and Stu were tied for 10th. That's a fun little trip to memory lane. Have nothing to do with what we're talking about now, though, but it's there. All right, so back to the all-time finish. Interesting to note, for this finals, O'Malley will be in the finals. It's the first finals he's ever been in. Currently, he has the lowest all-time finish in our league. This league has been going on for, this is the 8th year, so we have 7 years worth of data on final finishes. A little over 7, actually, because 4 of us are done for this season. But anyway, O'Malley comes in at dead last with an average finish of 8.85. Weaver is 11th, 8.14. Then we have Evan at 7.85. Brad at 7.28. Adam and Bacon both coming in at averaging a 7th place finish in the last 7 years, although that average will come down for at least Adam as he finished 12th this year. After that, we have Stu, 6th all-time with a 6.85. Scott actually just above him with a 6.71. 4th place all-time, Max, 6.7. Colin, Scott was 6.7. Max at 5.7, which is 4th all-time. Myself, 4.42, 3rd all-time. Pebs, 4.28, 2nd all-time. And Blood Diamond Bill, average finish, 1st in the league with the 3.85 all-time. A few things to note. So the top 5 people, all-time finishers, will all lose a little bit of ground because they will finish below their average all-time finish. So Bill, Pebbles, myself, Max, and Scott all will drop, as well as Adam will drop with his finish, and Evan will drop with his finish. However, O'Malley, Weaver, Brad, Bacon, and Stu all will increase in their finish, especially Stu and O'Malley, who are in the finals game. So that was our average all-time finish. I know I threw a lot at you guys, but basically, Blood Diamond Bill has the best average finish of all time. O'Malley has the worst average finish of all time, but he finds himself in the championship game. We all know he has had the Sacko 3 times, including last year, and he'll be trying to go from worst to best. Then another fun note, O'Malley put this in the group me, but I was able to snag Henderdog from him on waivers. Funny how this happens. I had all 3 Rams running backs. Akers is complete trash for a while. Toss him and Malcolm Brown to the curb. Henderdog then becomes obsolete, and I'm pretty sure I'll be buying Adam a bottle of whiskey pretty soon here because DJ Moore is who I thought he was when I drafted him. But I just had enough money left in my bank account to grab Henderdog off waivers to potentially use in my 7th place game and away from O'Malley. But today in the group me, O'Malley said he has 5 starting running backs, or would have had 5 if he kept Bell, and maybe he would have had 6 if he got Henderdog, and who knows? You can only play 3 of them, though, so that's a fun little tinkering note we'll have to be keeping an eye on this week. Take a swig of my canned Pacifico here. Oh, yeah. Okay. So, look back at week 15 briefly. Everybody picked Bacon to win, and by everyone, I mean myself, Weaver, and even the coin. Big storyline was Stu and the tinkering of Herbert and or Watson. Stu chose wrong in that department, but he still got the W, barely, as we talked about with Claypool on Monday night. So congrats to Stu. No one picked you to win that one. Next matchup was O'Malley versus Brad. The podcasters took O'Malley. The coin took Brad. We thought this was going to be the game of the week. It was going to be tough to choose in a close matchup, and O'Malley ended up just completely dominating, although Brad had a admirable week. Still takes the L, and O'Malley goes to the finals. Weaver and Scott played. I chose Scott. I actually don't remember who Weaver chose. The coin took Weaver, and Weaver won, and he now will be playing against me in the 7th place game. Evan and I were also playing in the beer bracket semifinals. I chose Evan, as did Weaver, because of Evan's running backs and the volume that Ayuk had been getting. While my team was pretty banged up, the coin chose myself, and I ended up getting the victory. So coin wins in that one. Podcasters were incorrect. Then the Sacko Bowl. Everybody picked Adam to win. I did. Weaver did. The coin did. We talked about how Adam's running backs are banged up and how Max's team was on the whole just a little bit shaky. I also wanted to make a note of Fournette and how he was going to play. He ended up getting, I think, around 17 points. Even the coin picked Adam, but then Max won, as we discussed on the unlucky happenings of Mr. Ebron. So with that, Adam won the Sacko. Last matchup of last week, it was Pebbles versus Bill in the meaningless 5th place game. I chose Bill. Weaver chose Pebs. The coin chose Pebs, and Pebs won 5th. So Bill got 6th, and when we had Stu on the podcast a few weeks ago, we were talking about how we would rank the playoff teams 1 through 6. We all chose Bill to get 6th, and he gets 6th, and we all are waiting with bated breath, F-Dog. We're all waiting with bated breath for Bill to do the Chicken Ranch interview. So Bill, keep us updated. I'm curious as what the application process is like. But if you have to come down, feel free. You can crash at the couch on the U, just get a quick flight. We'd love to host you. So a few weeks ago, when Stu was on the podcast, we chose our Sacko winners and our champions. And I chose Adam to win the Sacko. He in fact did. Now Stu chose me. I did not go to that game, so he was out of the running. Weaver chose Max. We had an Adam and Max game. Max was victorious. Weaver and I actually made a bet on this last weekend. Weaver, if you recall, or excuse me, last podcast, the loser of our bet, which is you, has to take a shot. Actually, we both take a shot, but then you have to attempt to beat the speed record of the U disc golf course. We actually both owe each other a bucket as well. So maybe we can just knock out all of these bets at once. But I hope you did not forget that you now must attempt the U disc golf course speed record. And no bogeys allowed. So if you bogey, you got to start over. In the championship matchup, both Stu and Weaver chose Stu over O'Malley, so very interesting that will be the matchup. Now, whether that will happen or not remains to be seen. I chose Stu as my champion as well weeks ago, and I also chose the Chiefs to win it all. So pretty interesting. I mean, it's kind of shitty that all the podcasters chose the same person to win, but interesting that the matchup that was predicted is what is actually happening. And that will happen this next weekend. And so without further ado, I'll just dive into the matchups that we have. So going from least interesting to most interesting, we have Evan and Scott. They're playing. Now, there's a little bit of intrigue in this one because a few weeks ago, Evan and Scott made the Hunter Henry for Ronald Jones trade. We've discussed this on the podcast a few times and heavily in the GroupMe, but we could not believe that Evan would give up such a valuable asset for a tight end when tight ends have been a crapshoot. Well, since that trade, Hunter Henry has been really good for Evan. Evan didn't end up where he wanted to, didn't crack into that top 6 for the playoffs, but avoided going into the Sacko game. And when they made the trade, Evan was wishing Scott well to avoid the Sacko game with that trade. And Scott did avoid that game, but now finds himself playing Evan for ninth. Now, both Hunter Henry and Ronald Jones will miss this game. They're both on the COVID protocols. So they will play each other without the players that they swapped. So they played once before. Evan beat Scott 147 to 87, 147.7 to 87.18. Mahomes put up 41 in that game. So in this one, I'm also going to take Evan. I think he has a stronger team. I mean, Julio Jones may not play. Michael Thomas is out. We saw flashes of Scott's team a few weeks ago when all these receivers were healthy. Now, it's been a little bit of a mixed bag. Scott has been successfully deploying the Indy running backs. So Jonathan Taylor Thomas and Nyheim Hines have been big producers for Scott as of late. I guess more Taylor, but he's getting better than. Well, Hines has been all right, but without both Jones and Thomas, his lineup looks much less threatening. Now, of course, Diggs is in there and is phenomenal. They're playing the Patriots, who just lost Gilmore to the IR. He tore his pec or something. So Diggs could produce. The Raiders are playing Miami, and Aguilar will have to show up in that game because the Raiders are hanging on to survival for their playoff hopes. And Kareem Hunt gets the Jets, so that's another good matchup for Scott. However, I think Evan's team is just stronger overall. I mean, Weaver has been drooling about Evan's team all year. But the fact that you have Chubbs against the Jets, Jones against Tennessee, Gio Bernard against Houston, he's still the starter there, and then Mahomes against Atlanta. Those are all very mouth-watering matchups. Not to mention Brandon Ayuk is a bona fide superstar now at wide receiver for the Niners. So I'm taking Evan. I mean, Evan is going to have to get another tight end because Hunter Henry is not going to play. But even with Hunter Henry in there currently, Evan still has about a 13-point push over Scott. So this one, I'm taking Evan to get ninth. Next matchup will be for seventh. It's an East Wing showdown between Weaver and myself. We have played once before. Weaver dominated me, 131.94 to 80.46. Not a good showing from me. That was back when everybody and their mother on my team was injured and just Buckaroo Allen was struggling. Not to mention Metcalf had 35 points for Weaver. Pittsburgh defense also had 18, so it was a super strong week for him back then. But times have changed. This week, I'm taking myself to win. I had a really strong week last week. I think Weaver's running backs are a little questionable. I mean, Pollard did well, but the Pollard and Zeke saga is interesting, and the Eagles have a good front there, D-line. Juju's going up against Indy. It's going to be tough. Then, Mike Davis in the flex for Weave going up against the football team, also a good team on the defensive line. And they're playing for the playoffs, so they're going to be extra motivated. Where on my side, I just have a lot of matchups I like. I mean, Josh Allen has been balling out. Ridley is playing the Chiefs, going to be in a shootout. With or without Julio, Ridley will produce. But Julio is looking on the wrong side of questionable. In the last two games, Ridley has put up over 20 points with Julio's absence. So I predict that to continue against the Chiefs on Sunday. Marvin Jones is the number one in Detroit. Miles Sanders is finally Miles Sanders, and they're playing Dallas. And then I think I actually made a nice little sneaky pickup of Austin Hooper. They're playing the Jets, and Hooper last week had his best game of the year in terms of points scored, founding the end zone, and Baker Mayfield's looking really good, so I think that continues. So in the seventh place game in this East Wing showdown, I am taking myself, Weaver. I'd be happy to bet on this one. Maybe we can think of something fun to do. Maybe a upside down shot, for instance. No one has taken me up on that one. Gall's getting 7th. Third place game. Okay, so this one, there are some actual stakes involved in this game because this is for the money. Another true Buckaroo Bowl. This is super interesting because they've actually played twice before. This is the third time that Brad and Bacon will play. Brad is 2-0 in the matchup. He won 142.4 to 88.14, and then 173.4 to 126.88. That was the last week of the regular season, week 13. So Brad's team always shows up against Bakeroo. This one's going to be cool to watch, obviously, for the getting your money back, but two big players on these teams are Tyreek Hill for Bacon and Travis Kelce for Brad. And I think that those two players could very well decide this matchup depending on where Mahomes decides to go more with the ball against Atlanta. They have a pretty porous defense. So you imagine that all three of those guys are going to be putting up some numbers. Travis Kelce is just absolutely fucking ridiculous. We've had some discussion at our place about where he's going to be drafted next year. Seems like the consensus is in the first round somewhere, but just how far into the first round, like would you take him in your top 5 picks? I don't know, top 7 picks? Probably. I mean, he basically is a number 1 wide receiver. I mean, if you fucking look at his numbers right now, he has 98 receptions for 1,318 yards and 10 touchdowns. It's absolutely ridiculous. So if you can lock up a tight end with that production and never have to think about it again, that's fucking amazing. And I know that's why Weaver drafted Kittle, and obviously it didn't work out for him this year, but Kelce's stock is at an all-time high, and he'll be taken in the first round very soon. Tyreek Hill, though, also is no slouch. I mean, he scored double digits in the past, 8 weeks. And in those 8 weeks, he has 5 games over 20 points. And one game he had 53 points. 53 fucking points. Anyway, so looking at the rest of this matchup, it was tough for me to choose who I think it's going to win. I eventually landed on Brad. So although I think Bacon's wide receivers are stronger, I give the slight edge to Brad in the running back department, although Kamara and Henry are pretty equal in my eyes. I think Swift is a little more valuable than McKissick, although Swift will be going against the Buccaneers, so we'll see if they actually have some goal line chances for him. But I like the Kelce Mooney combination better than the Hawk and Cock and Tanyan. Although Tennessee has been porous in pass D, I just think Mooney against the Jaguars is going to be a slam dunk. I mean, his little blurb says that the Jaguars have given up a league-high 31 touchdown passes to go along with an average of 271.7 yards per game. Special teams for both these guys, kickers and defenses, pretty equal. We'll see if Bacon actually keeps the Rams defense in there against the Seahawks. I don't know about that decision, but Tampa Bay against Detroit is pretty good for Brad. And then Tyler Bass on Buffalo against New England, I see pretty equivalently as I do Tucker against the Giants. So I'm taking Brad in a close one for this one. We'll see if Brad actually can go 3-0 against one person this year. I apologize, I didn't check everyone to see if there was another duo that had played 3 times, except for myself and Max. We played 3 times, and I actually swept him in that series. Okay, we have reached the championship matchup. Now, before I dive into that, I'm going to take a long drink of my canned Pacifico here, because a lot of intrigue in this one. Oh, something else I forgot to mention. As I was chugging this beer, I thought of all the shotguns I did that That infamous Sunday got me thinking about Adam and his White Claw shotgun during the basketball draft, or fantasy basketball draft. So, Adam, I have to throw out an apology in my fervor to see you do that White Claw shotgun. I forgot that the subtext in our agreement was that it would be during the draft. So, I must send out my sincerest apologies. You did a phenomenal White Claw shotgun, and I hope to see you do it again. Hope to see everyone do it again. Those shotgun videos are great. Okay, championship matchup. A lot of intrigue, a lot of interesting facts for this one. So, fact number one, we have the former champ or I guess the current champ from last year and the current Sacko winner from last year. So, the two guys who have the trophies in our league, who have been drinking out of the trophies. O'Malley has been taking his protein shots, his coffee, beer shots. Stu's been blowing that little guy sitting in that chair with whiskey all year. So two guys that are taking trophy shots are now meeting in the finals. Looking at both players a little bit closer, first of all, they're both silver going into this matchup, which I think is curious. I mean, how often do you have two players of less than gold status in a finals? I don't have those stats, but just amusing I had. O'Malley, his all-time high finish is third place. He's done it twice, most recently back in 2017. However, as I just said, last year he got dead last. He won the Sacko. While Stu, his high, obviously, is the championship victory he had last year. Before that, his lowest in 2018 was getting 11th. So Stu didn't exactly go from winning the Sacko to winning the championship, but he did go from the Sacko game to winning the championship. And now O'Malley will be trying to do the Sacko to championship rags to riches story. In our league, Bill has done that. 2015, Bill got the Sacko. 2016, he won the championship. And before that, Pebbles did that. 2014, Pebbles got the Sacko. In 2015, Pebbles was the champion. So, looking at my notes here, I think those are the only two guys that have done that. Let's see, how many Sacko winners we've had? So we've had 7 years, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, wait. 1, 2. This will be the 8th year. That's right. So incomplete stats for this year. But past 7 Sacko winners were O'Malley, Bacon, Weave, O'Malley, Bill, Pebs, O'Malley. Past champions to the guys who live on the trophy. Congrats to all of them. Last year was Stu. 2018 was Bill. 17 Max. 16 Bill. 15 Pebbles. 14 Bacon, which was the year of the curse, by the way, which I sent that picture in the group me, and now people are postulating that Adam has broken his curse with this Sacko. And then in 2013, Adam actually was the champion. Adam actually has been cursed for a long time. Since that championship, the highest he's done is a 5th place finish in 2018. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Back to this matchup. The two are rivals. This is also the 3rd time that these two have played this season. Stu is also 2-0 against O'Malley, much like Brad is against Bacon. Stu had a 127.72 to 96.08 victory in week 1, and a 126.92 to a 110.10 victory in week 12. So, if that's some kind of pattern, Stu is going to score around 126 points in this game. Something that I am going to be taking note of, among other things, is Stu and his quarterback controversy. Last week we talked about Herbert versus Watson. Stu ended up choosing the wrong quarterback. Watson got around 23 points, where Herbert got 27. Currently, Watson is in Stu's starting lineup, so we'll see if he stays with that. Watson is playing. Who are they playing? Cincinnati. So that's actually a good defense to play against. While Herbert is playing the Broncos. Let's see. The last time the Chargers played the Broncos, Herbert put up 21 points. And last week, the Bengals, Roethlisberger only gave up 6.7 points. And actually, they've been pretty solid on defense. No quarterback has scored over 16 points against them in over a month. Although in week 10, Roethlisberger did put up 29. So it looks like the Bengals have actually gotten a little better on defense recently. So that's something interesting to watch in this matchup, the Herbert versus Watson, and who gets the start and how they perform. But beyond that, both teams have a lot of fun roster decisions. Kittle is going to be coming off the IR, and he will be eligible to play. Whether Stu actually puts him in the lineup or not, obviously remains to be seen. Currently, Stu has Claypool in his flex. Now they're playing the Colts, which is a tough matchup, and Claypool has not been good over the last month. His highest point total is 8.2. Last week, he only put up 6.3 points on 8 targets. So it's an interesting decision that Stu will have to make there, whether he should keep Claypool. And also, he has both Higgins in his lineup. So between Rashad Higgins, T. Higgins, Claypool, and Kittle, you got to sit one of them. So it'll be interesting to see if Kittle cracks into that lineup. On the O'Malley side, Gaskin is coming off the IR and will be playing against the Raiders on Saturday. Gaskin, of course, was a mainstay in O'Malley's team before he got injured and then might have had COVID. I don't know. He's been out for so long. Currently not in O'Malley's lineup, but might make his way in there. O'Malley also has Russell Gage on the bench. Now, Gage has put up double-digit points in 3 straight games. Last week, he got 5 catches on 10 targets for 68 yards and a touchdown, and that was with Julio Jones absent. The Falcons are playing the Chiefs this Sunday, as we talked about a little bit with Mahomes and Kelsey and Hill, and our projections of them blowing up. But you imagine this game will be a shootout, at least on the Atlanta side. They'll be trying to claw back into the game as the Chiefs are heavy favorites, and so Gage could again put up double-digit points. Currently on O'Malley's bench. And then, how could anybody forget about Hollywood Brown and that miracle touchdown he had against the Browns to put O'Malley into the semis 2 weeks ago? Hollywood Brown actually has 4 straight weeks with double-digit points. So another guy who's currently on O'Malley's bench in lieu of Jeff Wilson, who is the starting running back for the Niners now, and Hopkins, Jefferson, and Davis, those receivers. Now I think, wow, Corey Davis has been really hot and cold recently. In the last 4 games, he has 20 points, 2.9, 29.7, 8.5. Jefferson is phenomenal. He's got to stay in there. Hopkins, of course, you can't sit in the finals game. That's why you draft that guy. So both teams have some interesting roster decisions, and I'm going to take a screenshot of their teams as they currently stand because I don't think this will be the final lineups we see for either of these guys. A lot of guys on the bench, a lot of big names like Herbert. So picking this one is pretty difficult. I think that O'Malley has a stronger team. I think that O'Malley, obviously, he's coming off of just complete domination of Brad last week. He put up 183 points, whereas Stu put up 129.12. But I'm going to stick with my pick, and I'm going to pick Stu to win. I don't even know how long ago it was, but a while ago we were talking about who we were picking for the champion in Frisbee Touchdown, who we were picking to win the Super Bowl. I chose Stu for our league and the Chiefs for the NFL, and I'm sticking with both my picks. So I'm riding with Stu, and we'll see what happens. So that's this week. Week 16, good luck to everybody. I know most of us have meaningless matchups beyond pride. But as I've outlined, I think each matchup does have a little bit of intrigue. Evan and Scott had the trade where both players now out. Maybe that's not very intriguing, but still a connection there. Weaver and I, we're going for 7th. It's King of the East Wing. And if I were to get 8th, it would be my lowest finish ever. Whereas if Weaver gets 7th, it actually will be his highest finish since 2015 when he lost in the finals. Bacon and Brad, they're going for the money, and Brad is going for the season sweep in that 3rd place game. And then, obviously, the championship's on the line. Stu is going for the season sweep as well. So, see you on the group meet, guys. Weaver, I look forward to your attempt at breaking the speed record at the U Disc Golf course. And happy holidays and Merry Christmas to you all. It's a pleasure doing these podcasts. Thanks again, Kurt, for the jingle. Every week's a new day. All right, dudes. Later.
Almost had him, Sacko at him, and it's difficult to fathom. Number 1 and number 2 is down to O'Malley and Stu. It's week 16. Who's it gonna be?